Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is John, the co-founder and CEO at Tresl Segments. Hello John,
Hi, Christian.
nice to meet you and thank you for joining our podcast. At first, please tell us what your company does.
Yeah, so we're Tresl Segments. We help Shopify brands build those advanced segmentations that they couldn't build anywhere else, give them a lot of data science insights, and help them connect to different marketing channels like Meta, Google, SMS, email platforms, and basically perform a team of data scientists will at your company.
What would you say is the biggest problem that you solve?
Right now, it's mostly just like the access to data science. For a lot of the Shopify brands and e-commerce company that we work with, whether you're a D2C omnichannel, we get to a certain scale and you have tons of data. You want to improve and optimize marketing because using the data insights, right? And that becomes a hurdle in terms of hiring data science talents, buying expensive software, and just in general, like figuring out what metrics are accurate. What should we do? How should we segment our customers? Do we need to buy a data warehouse? Do we need to connect all these different things? All of those things are like really complicated problems that most of the Shopify brands and marketers we work with are sort of getting stuck on. And so for us, we think of ourselves as like a mini CRM slash CDP.
Okay,
We're ex data scientists, and so we basically help our customers basically overcome these problems in a SaaS way, and it just helps them move forward and optimize and not having to spend millions of dollars right now.
exactly. That's right. And who would you say is the ideal customer? Who is the company that needs your software?
I would say like Shopify brands, I think we have customers actually ranging from under $1 million to over 25 million dollars a year in GMV. And so it is, you can benefit from our software at all levels, but I would definitely recommend that you sort of have like I would say over a million in GMV and maybe like consistently hundreds of orders per month, 10,000, 20,000 contact lists and above before you start segmenting, because a lot of the benefit that you gain is from looking at the data insights and then creating the segmentation to then optimize your different marketing channels.
Absolutely. And you need enough data to actually see how it goes.
Right.
So yeah, makes
Yeah.
total sense. And what would you say are the most loved features from the platform, the most used ones?
Right now, I think we have introduced basically a natural language segmentation. We call it Filter GPT or Segments AI, but it's
Okay.
basically a input box, like a chat box, connect to LLM. It's like a chat GPT style for segmentation.
Hmm.
That is actually a very, very popular feature. We see hundreds of queries people are typing in to create different segments that they want. And I think that has dramatically lowered the hurdle in segmentation, just because we have probably like 150 filters by now. And so it's really hard to understand what each of those filters represent. But if you could just have AI help you get there like 80%, 90% of the way, you can basically figure out the rest and how to use them. Besides that, I would say just like the out of the box pre-built segmentation that we have, and then also the integrations to Google and Meta, Klaviyo, back to Shopify customer tags. Those are really popular features.
Makes total sense. And would you say that AI impacted your business for the better? I mean, people can get much more value out of it, right? Just typing a few words and getting the data directly, then filtering
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
I mean, we're barely just scratching the surface of what sort of AI assisted could be.
Yeah.
I mean, we're learning every day, but I think the first really big improvement that we see is basically just around segmentation. Next will mostly be around reporting and analytics. You can see a lot of apps, or I mean, are thinking this way is like, can you actually, for example, like if you want to type into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you analyze my store's data for last month and tell me what's going on, or draw some charts for me? You cannot do that right now, right?
Yeah.
But I think the future is that where if it's connected and you teach sort of ChatGPT how to analyze your data, with our software, I think those things will become realities pretty soon.
Yeah. And do you see it hallucinating from time to time? Is this a problem that you faced? Because I saw so many people complaining about this, and I'm curious because
It's
data is
getting a lot
very
better.
Yeah.
I would say like, I mean, with all the different models, they're improving all the time, right?
Yeah.
But like ChatGPT 4.0 is the version that we're using right now, and is really powerful, and it's gotten a lot faster and a lot less hallucinations. Funny story, it did try to hallucinate before. So, for example, like someone asked the question like, can I create people who have like 2 orders and $1,000 spent in last year? So we have a order filter and then a spend filter. But if you create just those two independently, it doesn't actually capture the entire meaning of this query, the sentence. So
Hmm.
what ChatGPT did was like it came up with like a new filter that doesn't exist
Okay.
called, for example, like order within times range. And so because probably someone somewhere has written this code, right, for
Yes.
in SQL, and so
Yeah.
it hallucinated, and we saw it, and we're like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense to create, and so we ended up building this filter
Yeah.
because of the hallucination, right? And so it's not all bad. Sometimes they can uh, actually identify bugs or identify feature enhancements in your system.
Amazing, amazing story. And how about the pricing? How does it work for the audience to
Right.
understand?
So we have basically 3 plans, kind of like small, medium, large. So the simple plan starts at $199, and it basically includes like 50, all the AI segmentation capabilities. The only limitations are going to be around the advanced product insights, and then how many customer segments you can. There's an upper bound how many size of the segment you can sync, but which is plenty for most brands. And then with the medium plan starts at $479, which gives you the advanced product insights like product journey, product relations, product cohort. Those are actually really powerful features that a lot of our brands use to optimize post-purchase, upsell, bundling, and those things to understand like what people are buying next. And then we have our large plan, which is mostly tailored towards larger brands. We call it the enterprise plan, which comes with sort of dedicated data scientist service. We have like Slack. We meet regularly. We create sort of data solutions, data connections that they want. Basically, just like we essentially become sort of like their data scientists, if you will. So that's kind of for some of our larger customers.
And would you say this is a competitive space? How would you define the market? I'm curious about your perspective.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we compete with all different apps in different ways, right? So
Yeah.
I would say analytics itself is somewhat crowded, right? There's actually quite a bit of Shopify apps in the analytics space, creating reports, giving you cohorts, CLV, that type of stuff. But it's a very nuanced topic. Like analytics is there's so many things that can be considered analytics. So
Yes.
I would say we are analytics plus segmentation plus CRM plus CDP and all the other stuff that a typical analytics app doesn't offer. In a way, we compete with Klaviyo, even though like 70% of our customers use Klaviyo.
Yeah.
Only in that Klaviyo also creates segmentation, right? So a lot of our
Yeah.
customers think like, how are you different with Klaviyo? Well, the answer is we have a lot of like different proprietary and advanced segmentation that only we have that's not available in Shopify or in Klaviyo. And so those I would consider sort of like our sort of main what people mention when they come to us and say, hey, compare us to, for example, like a Lifetimely or compare us to like a Klaviyo.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the transparency. Now let's dive into the company story. How did you start it? How did you come up with the idea? The
Yeah.
co-founders, the team, everything that you can share.
For sure, yeah. So I've been in the data scientist space for 16 years, right? So I started working
Okay.
back in 2006 in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, as a statistician. Back then, there's no data scientist yet. And so I worked in sort of retail and CPG, price optimization, demand forecasting for about six and a half years. Then I moved to like a marketing agency, doing social media, predictive models, Facebook, Twitter likes, to predict box office and DVD sales. Then from there on, I basically moved to LinkedIn as a senior manager for data science and building, machine learning models for marketing and sales, segmentation, propensity modeling, things like that. So
Okay.
I met my co-founder Tony at LinkedIn playing hoops. We started chatting. We like joke that, hey, we should start a company together. What company would we start? It had to be around data science. And so in the genesis of our idea for Tresl Segments was basically an activity or like one of the things we always do at LinkedIn is called a list poll, basically polling a list of customers. And it involved using machine learning and all the data that we created to calculate or to predict which customers are most likely to convert, right? For a marketing campaign or for something for sales. And so we always build these models and these attributes about our members and different companies and use that to then predict, this list. And so we thought that would be very, very valuable. Like everybody would obviously want the best list to target for their marketing campaign, right? Which will be obviously higher converting. And so we thought, how can we create something like this for everyone else, right? For millions of companies, not just for the flag or Facebook and Apples of the world, right? Like they have all the money, they have all the engineers, they can do anything they want with the data. Before, like everyone else, and 99% of the other companies, they don't have $10 million to spend to build this company. Right. So we wanted to build a company and software that can make data science more accessible, and that's how kind of everything started.
That's amazing. And how big is the team today?
So right now we're 6 people, mostly engineers, product, and so we're split kind of like both in the US and also in Taiwan as well.
And did you raise any funding?
Yeah, so we raised a couple rounds of funding. So we've raised from institutional founders, we have raised from angels and VCs. So it's probably so we started back in 2020, and that's when we raised our first seed round. And since then, we've raised a few other follow-on rounds as well. Yeah.
Right. And a super important question for first-time founders. How do you get your first customers?
Good question. Yeah. So I think our first customer came from the Shopify Facebook group called Shopify Entrepreneurs.
You didn't have any experience in e-commerce, right? No experience, no network.
No, we didn't have. Yeah, me and Tony, we're basically just like data science guys. Yes. He came from like a high frequency trading background. Like he was like a quantitative trader, and he was basically a computer scientist. And me, I have more of a statistical background, right? So I studied statistics from at Stanford, and then basically worked in the data science field since. So neither of us have like e-commerce experience, right? Unless like buying stuff from eBay counts, right? So we haven't worked in e-commerce before. So we learned a lot, right? Basically, we figured that email marketing segmentation was going to be like where there's going to be a lot of opportunity for improvement. And so that's kind of like our genesis, like, hey, let's build something like a machine learning or AI for marketers. So we started, just like following different posts, influencers, Facebook forums, and it just kind of monitored the gamut, right? Like what people are talking about, and start responding to things. And then we created an MVP, basically then asked people to come and test. So that's how we got like initial like 10, 15 customers that basically just would be willing to try anything new. And then we had, I think about like 1 or 2 months after that, right? So we had to iterate based on a lot of the feedback. And then we met Chris Raven. He was a email marketing agency. He came from an agency, and then he saw the RFM segmentation that we built, and he thought it was like the simplest and most direct RFM segmentation that he's seen anywhere on the market. And so he became a customer because of the RFM segmentation.
Wow, that's amazing. And today, what's the most successful go-to-market strategy for acquiring new customers?
I would say we still basically get a lot of traffic from the App Store, from Shopify App Store. We are Shopify Plus certified, and so that helps with some of the marketing initiatives. It helps with trust, I would say, with the larger brands, knowing that we are vetted by Shopify, and have like all the data checks and all these things. But content, I think, is really good. Definitely just more case studies. We worked with verbatim to start a company and create a bunch of case studies with our largest customers. And then that has helped. It basically just like anytime they ask a question, it's like, hey, look at this case study, look at that one. Here's some things that people have done to get value quickly. So,
Yeah. And,
yeah,
do you
go ahead.
think the product reach a product market fit?
That's a good question. I think a lot of the things we want to build are still sort of like on the roadmap. I would say like Shopify app marketplace is a very tricky space, mostly because there's just like a lot of apps vying for people's attention. So in that way, I feel like it's not the product market fit maybe for like a general SaaS app, but like if we're the number one segmentation app on in the app store, right? So if anytime anyone wants to look for segmentation, they would most likely find us. Even if you type into ChatGPT right now, it's like, hey, what's the best segmentation tool on Shopify? Like we will come up as like number one or number two.
That's amazing.
So in that way, like I think we have reached certain product market fit in a small segment.
Yes.
But I think to have a much broader appeal, that's there's still ways to go.
That's amazing. And for the future, do you think about getting a marketing team or sales team, or do you plan to still focus on inbound?
Yeah, I mean, like it's that there's always a possibility. Like I think we have tried different marketing or sales go to market strategies, but I think it's so far it has yielded very little results for us. I would say, like I think because of the marketplace, because of who we serve, I think going to the trusted source, like an influencer, like a podcast, or maybe conferences, potentially down the road, and partnering with larger apps, I think is probably better.
Yeah.
Probably like a better go-to-market for us versus like just direct, like for example, direct sales, cold calling, cold emailing,
Yeah.
Google ads, for example, like because the Shopify actually limits that you cannot use anywhere like Shopify in the ad, so it
Okay.
like you could get a lot of sort of wasted traffic or budget spent going to non-Shopify stores. So in that way, like I've learned a lot. So yeah.
So at first didn't necessarily knew that much about marketing and sales, right? But being a founder, you had to learn that
Yeah, we had
the
to,
hard way.
exactly. Yeah, it's just constantly talking to customers. I think I did, I don't know, probably like 1,500 sales calls or more the last couple of years, right? So it's just like customer calls, demo calls, user research calls, support. So I still do all of that sort of myself. Like a
Yeah.
large part of that is done by me, but I enjoy talking to customers, right, and hearing their problems and knowing that we can actually help. I think it makes me really happy.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing the insights. I'm curious to know about your biggest challenge since starting the company.
Um, the biggest challenge definitely came around like 2022, I would say, just like in 2020, 2021, when because we started sort of doing COVID, where e-commerce was
Mm-hmm.
just like flying, right? Like everybody was on obviously like can't go out, and so we just had like double digit growth, triple digit growth really really quickly for the first couple of years, first 2 years, and then sort of COVID kind of stopped, and people are back, traveling, going to physical stores. And then inflation and there's like a lot of these crises around the world started happening. And I think e-commerce had a big slowdown
Yeah.
towards like second half of 2022, all the way to maybe like 2023, right? 2024 probably slightly better, but it's just like it's been tough, right? Because like we had to like cut costs and like let people go because like our projection wasn't going to be the same, right? Like in the first 2 years we're growing and we're going very very fast, but then when COVID kind of stopped, everything was like on a different level, and so that was really tough for me, like mentally, knowing that hey, I had to let people go to basically cut costs and sort of like rethink everything and try to go in a different direction and try to think of pivots, small pivots here and there. That was really, really tough, I would say.
Yeah, I totally understand you. And my next question would be, what would be your best piece of advice for someone that's working a stable job, let's say, same as you, working at LinkedIn, starting their own company? What would you advise them to, yeah, mistakes that you've
Ah,
made, anything that you can share?
I would say like
But please don't say don't do it.
I would say think really, really hard before you do it, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's it's incredibly um challenging, um but at the same time rewarding, right? I would say like I've learned so much that you would not learn in a typical job, right? Like all these different responsibilities, putting yourself out there, getting rejected all the time by investors and VCs, right? People telling you no, this product will never sell, telling customers saying, hey, your product doesn't work. I mean, it's like you need to have like a very, very strong mindset and like passion to really want to do this, to stick through it. And there are going to be moments that like will almost break you, right? Like I can almost tell you for sure, right? Like it will happen. These moments that really challenge your integrity and your self-worth, I would say. It's like, but what I learned is like, you know, well, you need to talk to people first of all. Like if you're just like closed up and you don't, it's like it's really bad, right? But I think you actually need to talk to mentors, coaches, and other friends, other founders. It really helps you
Yes,
to know that they are also going through very similar problems, so it's not just your fault.
yes,
And it also compartmentalize, right? Like I think compartmentalize that even if you didn't hit stratospheric goals, you're not Y Combinator, like $100 million valuation, doesn't mean you failed, right? I
yes,
think it's like separating your company and your self-worth and your sort of personal goals. It's really important because like as a founder, it's really easy to take everything like super hard on
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Every mistake you've made, every customer you've lost, it's all kind of like on you. um, and so a lot of times you feel like you're just not good enough or you failed. um, but you wake up, the sun goes, is still there, and then we have another day and you keep going. And
yeah.
so I would say like that is probably the hardest thing and probably the biggest advice is to I mean be prepared and like and every time you raise, double what you think you should need, and then also like in both the money you need and also the time you need. And so like never think, oh, I just need $1 million and that's it.
Yes, and
Always
six
go for
months
more,
and
because I think
yeah,
it's just like you could just never predict what will happen. um but yeah, and definitely have like a security blanket somehow, right? Something you can fall back on. Either you have savings or like support from family members, or if you have a wife or family, then getting their understanding is also very, very important.
perfectly said. Nothing else to add. You said it really well, and yeah, this should be an individual clip with everything that you
Yeah.
shared. I have one last question for you, John. Thank you so much for everything so far. Last question will be favorite software that you use, but apart from your own, obviously. So a software recommendation that
Yeah.
you'd share with other
This
people.
one is like, this one definitely was hard, but but there's only one answer that came up for me, and that like makes sense logically, and I think it's Google Sheets. Um, and the reason I say it's Google Sheets is because 15 years ago, I remember talking to my friend and coworker and said, I'm like, Google Sheets, like this product, how could, I mean, there's no way people are still using spreadsheets, right? In like 5 years from now or like 10 years. He's like, I think you're wrong, man. I think people just can't stop. Like, it's just like the most flexible,
Yeah,
innovative product, I think, on the
easy to
market,
collaborate,
even
easy to
today.
share, simple. Yeah,
Yes. It's on the cloud. It's automatically track. You could do all these things with it, right? And so I think to this day, I think Google Sheets is probably still is the probably the most widely used software and probably the most powerful one. If it's not the most, it's probably very close to the top.
yeah,
Um, and even the customers that we have, they say, hey, like, I want to export this Google Sheets. or they take our data and then they copy it into their Google Sheets. I'm like, why do you do that? I'm like, well, just because I can touch it. Like these are all
Yes,
the
yes.
numbers that I can see, I can touch, and I use that for reporting to my bosses, my team. So
Yeah.
my answer is Google Sheets.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. It was great chatting. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with the company. And I really believe in it. I love what you do. And yeah, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Christian.
Let's chat very soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.